going to show you how to make a granny square really quickly, or at least like the way that I like to do it. So I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to take my 4mm crochet hook. And the first thing we're going to do is make a magic circle. And so to do that, I'm going to take the yarn in front of these two fingers. I'm going to hold it down with my thumb and then wrap around. So now you have like that like X crisscross up here. And I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to hook it underneath that sort of crisscross area. And I'm going to pull up the yarn. And then I'm going to chain. So 1 chain. And I'm going to make 3 chains total. So 1, 2, 3. And now I am going to make 2 double crochets. So yarn over once, go underneath that sort of crisscross area again, pull up your yarn over and go through the first 2 loops, yarn over and go through the last 2 loops. So you've just made 1 double crochet. This like initial chain is also going to act as like a double crochet. We're going to make another double crochet here. So we have 3. So basically, if you see in the top, if you see here, we have 4 groups of double crochets. And so this is basically your first group of 3 double crochets. And now we're going to make 2 chains. And then you're going to go back into your loop and create 3 double crochets. And then again, you're going to do 2 chains and then 3 double crochets. And then as you go, I like to like tighten it up so I can start like seeing the shape up here. And then go ahead and make 2 more chains. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make my last group of double crochets. So once you have that, you can start tightening it up and you'll start seeing that you're getting this like square-ish shape. And from here, I'm gonna make 2 more chains. So 1, 2, and I'm going to slip into the very first sort of chain that I made. You'll see that, like, you know the chains that I said in the beginning that are going to count as a double crochet? Well, I'm going to go to the top of that. You're just going to slip, slip. And you can see like your little square is starting to form. And from here, I like to like really tighten up the sort of magic ring circle portion so that you just don't have a gap in the middle there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna turn my work. And if you can see here, you have these 4 groups of 3 double crochets and you have these 4 corners. We're gonna be working into those corners for the second row. So now that I have my, again, this counts as like 1 double crochet, I'm gonna make 2 double crochets in this corner. And so now we're going to make 2 chains. So 2, and then you're gonna go in the same corner here and make 3 double crochets. Okay, and now, so basically when you're like making the corner, you're gonna make 2 turning chains, or not turning chains, but like 2 chains in between your groups of 3s. But in between, aka like this is just the side, right? I'm not making a corner. You're only gonna put 1 chain, so 1 chain. And then I'm gonna go into my next corner and make another group of 3. So 1, 2, 3. And this might be a little confusing, but you'll start to see it take shape. So as you can see, like the 2 chains in between those groups of 3 double crochets is making that nice little corner there. And then because I need to make another corner here, I'm gonna make 2 chains. So 1, 2, I'm gonna go back into that corner. Okay, now I finished another corner, and because I'm going just to the next corner, I just need 1 chain. And then I'm gonna make another group of 3 into the corner. 3, and then making that nice sharp little corner, so I'm chaining 2. And then we're gonna go back in, finish that other group of 3. And then 1 chain, because I'm going to the next corner. And I'm gonna finish up that corner. So 1, 2, 3, and then 2, and then 3, 2, and then 3. Okay, so you're starting to see the square sort of form, right? So what we're gonna do here, because we're not like in the corner, we're gonna do 1 chain to connect these 2 groups of 3 double crochets. So we're gonna do 1 chain, and then we're gonna slip into the top of the 3 chains. There you go, that's slipped in. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work. And now we are working into the side first. So now we're going to make 1 group of 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and that's it, remember, because your 3 starting chains counts as 1 double crochet. And then we're gonna make 1 chain because we're just going to the corner. And then at the corner, you gotta like make the corner with your chains. So we're gonna do our first group of 3 double crochets. And then 1, 2, that's making our corner. And then finish out that group of 3 double crochets. Okay, so because we made that corner, now we're just going to a side. So 1 chain only, and then make your 3 double crochets. 2, 3, and then again we're reaching to the corner. So we just need one chain here, and then we do our group of 3 here. Two chains, and then another group of 3. And then make 1 chain. So we go into the side here. We're just gonna make 1 group of 3 double crochets. 1, and then to the corner, where we're gonna make 2. All right, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and then 3. 1 chain, go into the side. 1, 2, 3. 1 chain, go into the corner. Wow. Go into the corner. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, and then 3. Okay. So now we've met back up to our first group of 3 double crochets. Because again, it's on the side and not a corner, we're just gonna make 1 chain and then slip into the top here. So slip into that top. All right, now we are starting to see our little granny square form. And now I'm gonna do one more row. If you need like bigger sizing, you could probably like do more rows, make this a slightly bigger granny square to cover the girls and whatnot. But I think I was like analyzing Jennie's top, and I'm pretty sure it's only 4 rows total of the granny square. Also, my granny square this way, it does leave me with 4 by 4 inch squares. So there you go. Now we're gonna make 3 chains, and we're gonna turn our work, and we're gonna work into this hole here. So we see like this is our group of 3, this is our group of 3, group of 3, group of 3, right? And we're gonna make sure that we're keeping our groups of 3s together. Otherwise, that's kind of when your granny squares, like if you accidentally put it in here or whatever, like that's when your granny squares start looking a little wonky. So just be careful of that. But we're gonna put 2 here because it's the side. Right, so that makes a group of 3. And then chain 1. And then we're gonna make 2 groups of 3 here with 2 chains in between. So 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one corner done. Chain 1. Go into your side. Because it's the side, we're only going to make 1 group of 3 double crochets. And then chain 1. And again, we're at another side hole. So we're just going to make 1 group of 3 double crochets. I'm using like extra yarn, so it's like really fighting me here. Okay, and then another chain, and then we're in the corner again. So we're gonna make 2 groups with 2 chains in between. Also, I'm sorry if I'm shaking a little bit. I had a lot of coffee this morning. So I'm very caffeinated. But there's our 3, and then 2 chains to make that nice little corner. And we're gonna do 1, 2, 3. Again, this becomes very repetitive. And then in terms of like amounts of chains in between, you just have to be like aware of whether you're going to be working into a side or corner. Because if you're in a corner, you want 2 turning chains, not turning, I keep saying turning, but you're gonna want 2 chains if you're in a corner. But if you're just going like in between, then you just need 1 chain. At least that's what I found to like get it to be like a really nice sort of crisp edge. Obviously blocking helps with it as well, but you know. One, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 chain. 2, 3. 1 chain. Into that corner. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and if this tutorial doesn't really make sense, there's a lot of these components are you know, really common in crochet, so you can probably find a ton of tutorials out there. But yeah, let's see. One, 2, 3, 1, Oh, and then I'm back at my original starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and slip into that top chain. And then like pull your yarn through, and then you can go ahead and snip this. And then you've got one granny square. It's pretty uniform, like it's pretty nice. I do recommend blocking these, obviously, just to get them like nice and crisp, but that's how you make a granny square. When you are finished with your granny squares, what you are gonna do is create a red trim around the border using your red yarn and just a single crochet stitch. So to do that, I'm gonna go underneath these sort of V's that you see on the side, like that braiding. And I'm gonna go underneath each little V. I'm probably gonna start off in a corner, just because that can be a little bit more well hidden. So I'm gonna put my hook underneath my first little V I see here. And I've already made a slip knot here. I'm going to put it on my hook and then pull it up. And I'm going to take the tail and the working end of my yarn and just chain two, just because that way I have fewer ends to weave in later. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go ahead into my next little chain here, and I'm gonna do a single crochet. So you just pull up and then go through both loops. And that's how you create your little single crochet border. I'm gonna go through every single little V chain thing that I see. And then once I am done, I am going to use a slip knot to connect it back in this corner. So let me just finish that off real quick. So I actually also wanted to show you really quick another little trick I do to save myself the absolute pain of having to weave in so many ends, especially on this top. So right here, you see that I have the end from my granny square, right? Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that it lays sort of in the direction that it's supposed to go in, if that makes sense. Like this would be counter to how it wants to actually lay, and then this is in the correct direction. So anyways, what I mean by that is I'm gonna continue doing my single crochet around my border, and once I get to sort of the end here, I'm gonna hold it down like on top of my other stitches, and then I'm gonna go in and single crochet around it. So I'm holding this, I'm gonna yarn over and pull up a loop, and then pull through both loops. And you can see that this end is now sort of secured inside of the single crochet border. So I'm gonna keep going. And it might get like a little funky here, but all you gotta do is like straighten it out. Now I am reaching my final stitch, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish that off. And then once I have finished that last single crochet, I'm just gonna go ahead and into the back loop here, and then slip stitch it together. I'm gonna trim that off. That's how you complete the border around each granny square. You're gonna make 8 of these for your front slash side-ish portions of the top, and then you are going to seam them together into these sort of 4 square panels. So there are a few different ways that you can attach your granny squares, but the way that I do it leaves me with a really pretty braid on top. And so basically what I'm doing is I've lined up my squares so that I know which stitches are corresponding. That's gonna leave me with like a straighter edge. And I go in with my hook from front to back on the back loops of each corresponding stitch, and I pull up and create just a slip stitch. And I'm going to do that for the entirety of these two squares together, and then also connecting it further to two more squares on the top. Once I've connected like all four squares from bottom up, I'm then going to seam them together at the sides. If you're a little confused on how to go over the braiding that you previously made, I'll show you really quickly how to do that. But yeah, you're really just going to connect your granny squares however is best to you, and whatever method that you want to join them. Okay, so this, again, just to clarify, this is just a sample. I would do the back portion of the lemon peel stitches once I have created my like 2x2, 4 total square panels. But I just want to show you really quickly how to attach your yarn onto the sides of the panel, and then how to do the lemon peel stitch as well. So the way that I started doing the stitching for the back panel is that once I've made my 4 square panel here, I would go into the edge of my red borders and sort of connect the yarn there, and then start the lemon peel stitch, and I would work like this way. And then, these are my rows. And then the reason why I did that is because I feel like that way it was easier for me to measure it onto myself and to make sure that it fit. And the back portion is sort of where you can give yourself less or more allowance, depending on what size you need the top in. So let me show you just really quickly how to do the lemon peel stitch. I have no idea what the actual back looks like because all the pictures were kind of blurry, so I can't really tell exactly what stitch was used. The only reason I'm using lemon peel stitch is because it's a lemon peel and this is a fruity top, so I thought it was a cool, cute little play on stitches and the top. But if this is like too much to sort of do if you're a beginner, you can totally go ahead and just do like half double crochets or double crochets or single crochets or whatever. This back part is like really up to you and how you want it. But the way that I did it was using the lemon peel. I also feel like the lemon peel stitch has a really nice stretch and a really nice drape to it, and a really beautiful like effect. Like I keep on touching it. So just imagine that this is a 4 square panel, right? Okay, so we're gonna take our white yarn and we are going to make ourselves a little slip knot. We are going to go in to our corner and we are going to hook our slip knot onto our hook and pull up. And again, I'm doing that same thing where I'm holding the tail and the working yarn together to make my first couple of chains here. So I'm going to start off with 2 chains here, and this is going to act as my single crochet, like my first single crochet. The lemon peel stitch is basically a single crochet and a double crochet alternated. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to put a double crochet. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet. So again, a double is when you yarn over, put it in your stitch, pull up, go through the first 2 loops and then the last 2 loops. And then a single crochet is when you just go through those 2 loops. You don't do like an initial yarn over. And you are going to alternate this. So like, let's imagine that that is the end of my row, right? And you see how like my stitches are kind of like one's longer, one's shorter, one's longer, one's shorter. Okay. So if you work an even number of stitches, you are going to follow me as I say. If you work an odd number of stitches, just make sure that you are putting in a single crochet where you previously worked a double, and vice versa. But if you have an even number, this applies to you. So we're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then this, if you can see, this like taller stitch is a double crochet and this shorter stitch is a single. So in the double, we're gonna work a single. We're alternating these stitches. And then because this is a single, we're gonna work a double into it. And you are just going to repeat that sequence. And then once you have worked your last double crochet, go ahead and make another chain, turn your work, and you were just going to repeat that sequence over and over and over and over again until you get a back portion that fits to you or whoever you're making this for. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I do all of my different fruits. So I'm going to start off with the cherry. I already made one. I think in her top total, she has 3 strawberries, 2 cherries, 1 grape, or bunch of grapes, and then she has 2 sevens. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I do those. So for the cherries, I actually take the same exact red that I use for my border. For the strawberry, I used a slightly different red tone because I was like really analyzing the photos and I was like, I think there's slightly different reds. I don't think it would make a huge difference, but I think like for cherries, you do want like a deeper red, like a ruby red, if that makes sense. And then like for the strawberry, you want like a brighter, truer red. I don't know if this makes any sense, but like that's sort of how I did it. But anywho, we are going to make 2 magic rings. Magic circles, magic rings. I think there's a difference, but I kind of use them interchangeably, which I know is not super accurate, but like bear with me. And for all of my fruit attachments, I actually went with a slightly smaller hook just because I didn't, like I wanted my stitches to be very like compact, if that makes sense. Like I didn't want there to be a lot of gaps or holes. So I'm gonna go in with a 3.5mm crochet hook. If you don't have like a variety of crochet hook sizes, you could honestly probably just get away with using a 4mm. Just keep your tension a little bit tighter and just pull on the ends a little bit more. Unless you like the little holes, totally up to you. But we are gonna go ahead and start again with your magic ring. You're gonna take your hook and you are going to pull up and you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And you are going to make 12 double crochets into the ring. So 1, okay, so now we're gonna tighten. Like to really squeeze that end. And then you're gonna go into, what I like to do actually is, you know that first chain of 3 that we made? So I'm gonna go into the top of that chain, but I'm only gonna go through the back stitch, or like the back loop. What I'm going to do is go through that back loop, pull through, so you slip it together. And then at this point, I give myself like a few inches of a tail, just so it's easier to weave in. I go ahead and snip it off. And then I take my tail that I just snipped off, and I go through with my little tapestry needle. So I like to go through the actual stitch, like the first stitch that you see here. Pull your yarn through there. And then you see how like your tail is coming through here? I'm gonna go ahead and put my tapestry needle in the middle of that like V and pull through. Because that way it creates yet again another little neat V right there. And then you get a nice little circle. And now I'm going to take my green yarn I'm using for all the stems, which is very tangled. You do not want to see my desk, it is absolutely a mess. But anyways, I'm going to make myself a slip knot on my green yarn. And from here, I'm going to go into one of the stitches that I'm sort of arbitrarily deciding is the top of my cherry. And then I'm going to hook my green yarn right on. So what we're gonna do is I'm again taking my tail end and like my working yarn, and I'm just working them together because there's so many ends in this project. But I'm gonna make 16 chains total. So 1, so I'm going to go into the second chain from my hook. I'm going to make a single crochet. So I'm starting my leaf. I'm going to make a single crochet. And then in the next chain, I'm going to be making a half double crochet. So 1 half double crochet. And then in the next chain, I'm going to be making a double crochet. So double crochet. And then in the next chain, I'm going to be making yet again another double crochet. So double crochet. I'm going to go down again to a half double crochet, half double crochet, and then I'm going to go in and make my last single crochet. That's our single crochet, and there is 1 leaf. And from here, I'm going to be making my second leaf. So I'm going to chain an additional 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then here, I'm going to go into my first chain, make a single crochet. And then in my next chain, I'm going to be making a half double crochet. So half. And then in my next one, I'm going to be making a double crochet, and then another double crochet, and then another half double crochet, because now we're decreasing that height, and then to finish it off, my single crochet. All right, okay, so from here, what I like to do, because I want this sort of the leaves to come together at a point. So you see how on the sides, there's like these little chains right here. So I'm gonna go in with my hook, go on like to the sides, right here and right here. And I'm going to slip stitch that. Just so that the leaves actually kind of come together. And And then from here, I'm going to be making my second stem. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's my second stem. And then I'm gonna take my little cherry and slip it through here. Slip, slip. And then honestly, I'll make another little chain, pull my yarn through, and then here, all you gotta do is weave this end in. That is how I make my cherries. The next thing I'm gonna show you how to make are these little strawberries, which I love them, they're so cute. I'm gonna take my brighter red yarn. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make a little slip knot. Go ahead and put that knot on my hook. And I'm gonna chain 2. So 1, 2. And then from here, I'm going to put 2 double crochets in the first chain that I made. So 1 and 2. Once I have made 2 double crochets into that first chain, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and I'm going to put 2 double crochets in each stitch. And then I'm going to chain 1, turn my work around, and I'm going to put 2 double crochets into my first stitch. And then for the next 2 stitches, I'm just going to put 1 double crochet each. And then for this last stitch, I'm going to put in 2 double crochets. And then I'm going to chain, turn my work. So we now have 6 stitches. I'm going to put 2 double crochets in the first and last stitches, otherwise just 1. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we'd come to our last stitch, so we're doing 2 double crochets, so 7, 8, and then we're chaining 1, turning our work, and then from here we will be decreasing. So to decrease, yarn over, put your hook in the first stitch, pull up a loop, and then go through the first 2 loops. And then yarn over again, go into your second stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, and then pull through 3. So you've just decreased by 1 stitch, so that's 1 stitch total. And then work regular double crochets until you get to your last 2 stitches. So that's 5 total stitches, and then we're at our last 2. So again, yarn over, go through that stitch, pull up a loop, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through your last stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2, and then pull through 3. Now chain 1, and you're going to turn your work, and we're again going to decrease on the sides. decrease, 2, 3, and then we're at our last 2 stitches, so we're gonna decrease, yet again. So at the very end you should be left with 4 total stitches, and now you see that sort of strawberry shape start to form. And from here I'm gonna go in on to like the side little chains, just so you can make a chain or sort of braiding around the sides to make it a little bit cleaner. So you may have to play around with this a little bit, but just generally I just kind of go through some of these side chains and make little braids, just so the sides are a bit more evened out. So to create the stem portion, I'm gonna go ahead and take my green yarn. Okay, so to create the leaves for the strawberries, I'm going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it's really similar to the cherry leaves. I'm just gonna do 1 less double crochet. So I'm gonna go into the second chain from my hook and make a single crochet. And then in the next chain, I'm gonna do a half double crochet. And then in the next one, I'm gonna do a double crochet. And then in the next one, half double crochet. And then in the next one, aka your final stitch, you're gonna do a single crochet. And then I'm going to do that a total of 3 times, so 2 more times. So now we have 3 little leaves. And then what I'm gonna do is go underneath the little loops on the side here, just so that it tightens at the center. And then I'm going to also take my strawberry and then go to like the top stitch here and then pull through all 4 loops. So then your little leaves are now sort of attached to the top of your strawberry. And then I'm gonna chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna just do 2 single crochets. I'm gonna go into the second chain from my hook. 1, 2, and then I'm gonna go back in, sort of in the middle here, and then just do a little slip stitch, and then I'm gonna leave myself like quite a bit of a tail. Take our little tail and weave it through our needle, and we're just gonna attach the leaves down to the strawberry. Here we're going to make the little strawberry seeds on our strawberry, and then to do that you're really just gonna go in and like do it haphazardly. Like, I think the seeds look a little weird when they're too uniform, so really just go ahead and do whatever the vibes are for that day, you know? Make another magic ring. I'm making my final grape because I'm gonna need 6 total. But I'm chaining 2, and then I'm just doing 10 half double crochets into the ring. From here I'm going to take some purple yarn and thread it onto my tapestry needle. I'm going to take that, and then I'm just going to like connect it the best that I can. I'm really just sort of like placing each little grape sort of about where I'd want it to be on, like, attached, and then going through stitches that will help me attach it. Oh yeah, grapes. So for the first leaf I'm gonna do 7 chains. 3, 4, 5, 6 for one single, one half, one double, one half, and a single. And then I think we're just gonna repeat that one. And then that's 3, so then I'm gonna do one that's just like this one on the edge. So I'm gonna chain 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna go in to second chain, do a single, half, double, a double, a half, and then a single. Okay, so we have like 5 leaves. And then I'm gonna go into all my little sides again from front to back. Okay, and then I'm gonna go into the top of my middle top grape. Slip it all together. Slip, 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 slip. And then make my little nub at the top here, just like I did with the strawberries. I'm gonna slip that back in there for security. And then I'm gonna give myself a long tail. And then I think I'm just gonna sew it down with my end. So I have a chain of 17. And then I'm going to make 3 extra chains as my sort of starting chain. I'm gonna go into the 4th chain from my hook and make my first double crochet. So, and then I'm going to make 10 double crochets. So I've made 10 double crochets, and then for the next chain I'm going to put in 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do 2 chains of 1 double crochet each. So 1, 2. And as you can see, it's sort of like turning the corner. And then in my next chain, I'm going to do 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do 1 double crochet in my last 3 chains. So 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my black yarn and make myself a little slip knot. And then I'm gonna go in this first corner here and then make myself 2, because I'm gonna do single crochets all around. This lace trim bit is probably one of the more difficult parts to crochet. And if it's really stumping you, in all honesty, I think you could just get away with not having the trim at all, or just doing like a ruffle edge with double crochet. But I personally really like this sort of like diamond mesh lacy detail, and so I'm going to show you how I did that. I actually used this video tutorial in order to create the lace trim. It's literally the same exact thing. And so if my explanation doesn't make any sense, check out their video. Hopefully it can answer some of your questions, but I'll try to explain it the best that I can. So to do the lace crochet trim, I actually took a smaller hook. This is my 3mm hook. Honestly, this lace crochet looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is, because it's a 2-row repeat once you have created your foundation row. I'm going to chain 6 chains. I'm going to do 4 double crochets into my very first chain. So that's my first chain. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna make myself 4 double crochets. So this is how it's looking now. I've got 4 double crochets in my first chain, and now I'm going to chain 3, 2, 3, turn my work. So from here I am going to be doing 3 double crochets. So I've done 3 double crochets, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into my chain here, and I'm going to put my hook underneath that first chain, and I'm going to put 3 double crochets in there, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to be doing a treble. So I yarn over twice first, and then in my next chain I'm gonna go in, right? This is my next chain. I put my hook underneath there, I pull up my yarn, and then I go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go through the next 2, yarn over, and then go through the last 2. So that's how I do my first row. Okay, so we've now like established the beginning of the lace trim. From here on out, it's going to be a 2-row repeat. So we are going to start with row 2. To start off, we are going to chain 5 and turn your work. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put 3 double crochets into the chain that we made in between the 3 double crochets and the treble. So we're gonna put our hook underneath that chain, and we're gonna put 3 double crochets in there. So that's 3, and then we are going to put 1 double crochet in our next stitch. We're gonna go in there, make ourselves a nice little double, and then you are going to chain 2, so 1, 2, and then you are going to go to your 3rd stitch, so 1, 2, 3, and then make a double crochet. If you can see, this is the start of our mesh portion. And you're gonna repeat that, so you're gonna chain 2, and then you're gonna go into the 3rd stitch, and you're starting to see like that diamond mesh take form. And then this is your 2nd row that you are going to repeat. This is what I will refer to as row 3. We're going to chain 2 to begin, and then you're going to chain an additional 3. 1, 2, 3. And in the 3rd chain from your hook, you're going to make a slip stitch. This creates sort of like the bottom beading portion, if that makes sense, the tip of your diamond mesh. And at this point, I'm going to chain an additional 2 and turn my work. So it looks like this. And I'm going to make 1 double crochet into this stitch in order to sort of finish off that diamond mesh pattern. And then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to create 4 double crochets, and I'm going to start in my first like stitch here after my chaining. So here you can see that we have made our first like little diamond mesh cutout detail. And then once you have made your 4 double crochets, you're going to go into the top of your chain, this first chain here. You're going to make 3 double crochets in there. And then once you're done with that, you're going to give yourself 1 chain. So we're going to that next chain, and then we're going to finish off our treble. So we go through the first 2, wrap around, go around this last 2, and last 2. So yeah, you are just gonna repeat rows 2 and 3 until you get a lace trim that goes around your waist. You are going to attach it using the same sort of method that you use to attach all of your squares together, but you are just going to attach it to the bottom of your work of your panels / your lemon peel stitch back. And now I'm going to take my red yarn, and from here I'm going to start attaching it to the sides. I'm going to start on this like first stitch I see here. I'm going to put my hook through, make a slip knot, and then pull up and create 2 chains. So 1, 2. And those first 2 chains are just going to act as my first single crochet stitch. And then I'm going to go in my next stitch and make myself a single crochet. And then I'm going to repeat that for 6 stitches along this row of double crochets. Okay, so this is where we're going to start getting into like a more repetitive stitch work. So what I'm going to do is, now that I have this like corner of my mesh here, and you can see because I already kind of demoed it, some of my stitches are kind of stretched out because that's where I put the red border on. So to make the scallops, I am going to do 7 double crochets in this stitch. So you see how that creates like this really pretty scalloped edge? To sort of make it like connect back to the mesh portion, because you see how there's like a little bit of a chain and then the little tippy tip corner where we did like that slip stitch into the 3rd chain in our row 3. What I'm gonna do is, I have basically 2 little bumps on that like pointy bit here. And so I'm going to slip stitch into each of those stitches. And then now I'm back at like this side of our mesh, and that's where I'm going to create our next scalloped edge. Right, so I see that I have 2 scalloped edges now, and basically each of these scallops are going to be like on these 2 sides of our diamond mesh. Okay, and then if you're like, okay, where do I attach it now? You attach it to this side of your diamond mesh. So I'm just gonna go into that stitch and make myself a little slip stitch. So you've attached the scallop. So I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that entire sequence. So now on this side, we are going to create an edge of single crochets. This is my last single crochet. Going there. And then I'm gonna make sure that my little edges here are all secure. Okay, so I have finished the lace trim border ruffling. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make 1 single crochet row all around the edge. And as I do so, I'm gonna start weaving in my ends as well. And what I mean by that is, like you see here, I have a couple of loose ends here. I'm gonna crochet them in as I work. Weaving in my ends in as I go. We can see here that they're like in the stitches itself. This little bit poking out really doesn't bother me, but if it does, then I actually would recommend that you don't weave in your ends in as you crochet, and instead you just take a tapestry needle and then like weave them in through the back here, if you really just do not want to see even a peek of the other color in here. But I think like overall at the end of the day, like it doesn't show that much, so I don't mind it. Also, once I get to sort of my corner here, this upper corner, just putting in a single crochet stitch in every stitch at this point can make the edges look a little rounded. And so what I do at these corners is I actually put in 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 single crochets here. And then the reason why I do that is because it actually kind of like literally turns the corner for you, so that you don't have a weird rounded edge, and instead you can actually get a sharper corner edge, especially after you like block it out and all of that. Okay, so because I'm still waiting on my buttons to arrive, I'm actually going to go ahead and attach all of my fruit embellishments first. So you normally would go under here, right? And then you would go under those 2 loops. But because that would sort of like flip the stitch, like this nice V braiding up front, if that makes sense, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go into sort of the front like straight loop here. I think this would also be considered the 3rd loop. I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate because this is single crochet. But anyways, I'm going to go into that loop because that will allow me to have a flat front. So you're going to go underneath, under these loops. Pull up, and then go ahead and chain 2. And then again, I'm going to go in through that front loop here. And then chain 2, turn your work, and then just do half double crochets. So you're going to wrap around once and turn to the stitch, pull up a loop, go through all 3. And you are really just going to repeat this until you have a strap length that is good for you. I have a strap length that is about 9 inches, and for me it is about 27 rows in total. I really just tried this on as I went and made sure that it fit, as should you. So basically I've done all the half double crochet rows that I need for my strap. I've done 27 rows, and now making sure not to twist my strap, I'm going to be attaching it to the back panel. So to make the like scalloped edge, I am going to hook my yarn into sort of the red yarn that is on my project. Really, you just want to secure it somehow onto this side. And I'm going to pull up on my yarn. And I'm just gonna start immediately making double crochets. So I'm gonna go in and I'm going to weave in this end as I go by crocheting it in. And I'm gonna go underneath sort of where I see fit, basically on the side of that first row. And I'm gonna give myself 7 double crochets in here. I'm going to be estimating sort of where I want my scalloped edge to meet at the strap. So what I mean by that is, like, you see how it's like sort of coming apart? So we need to make a slip stitch onto the strap to secure it onto the strap. And so I'm gonna lay it down, and then I'm gonna go into sort of the nearest stitch, and I'm going to slip it on. And then I'm going to go into the next, like, sort of where I approximate where I want the center of my scalloped edge to be. And I'm gonna go through that chain and give myself 7 double crochets in there. And then from here, because we've made our scallop, we need to attach it back to the strap somehow, somewhere. And I'm gonna go ahead and sort of estimate where I want it to be and slip it on. And as you can see, once you sort of make sure that you're sort of laying it flat. I don't really have a good stitch count for this necessarily, because you are working with these like sort of scallops. I just make sure that like I'm doing a sanity check every few scallops and making sure that they're laying flat. Yeah, so you can see like I want it to be pretty close to each other, but I don't want it to sort of bunch up. So you might have to play around with the placement of it a little bit, especially if your measurements are a little bit different than mine. But that is how you do it. I finally got the buttons in. I might hate myself later while I'm editing this if this doesn't work out. But what I want to try actually is I still have my yarn attached to my ball right now, but I think I'm going to take it off and I'm going to crochet in this end. But what I want to do is that I actually want to string the buttons on my yarn first before starting to work with it, just because I think that'll be more secure than me trying to sew them on later. Okay, yeah, and then in total there are 7 buttons, and the first and last button are going to be obviously here and here, and then you just want to evenly space out in between the buttons. For me, I think what works best is to sort of start off with a button here and then skip 5 stitches, add another button, skip 5, add another button, etc., etc. But I'm gonna attempt my little idea and we'll see how the execution goes. So my idea is that I am going to string the buttons onto the yarn first and then like sort of crochet them in as I go, because I still need to do the buttons and the buttonholes on this side and then the scalloped edging on the top. But I'm so close. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and string all 7 buttons on. I think normally you would want like a little threader, like there's like a thing, a little tool that you can use to help you do this. I grew up in a dry cleaners and I used to do this all the time, so I'm just gonna do it by hand. But basically what you want to do is like twist your yarn as much as possible so that the threads are really closely intertwined. If you can see, it's almost like making a sharp little tip. And then thread it through. Whew, okay, almost lost it. All 7 of my buttons are on. And now I'm gonna go ahead and make myself a little slip knot. The first thing I think I'm gonna do is go ahead and mark where I'm gonna want my buttons. And sometimes when I run out of stitch markers, I always have like a bunch of hair accessories on my desk right where I work. So I use some bobby pins. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, mark. First thing, I am going to pull up a loop and then I am going to chain 2, so 1, 2. I'm gonna also hold my ends in, so this might get a little confusing, but I am holding my ends so I can crochet them in. But now I'm going to bring my first button up and make it as tight as can be. And I think you kind of want the button facing away from you, so you want to be seeing like the hole back here. And I'm gonna go into my first stitch and making sure that my tension is pretty tight here, I'm going to secure that button on. And as you can see, like, I just feel like that's a bit more secure than if I had gone in at the end to hand sew them in. Obviously, if this is really confusing to you, you can just do a single row of single crochet and then add the beads, no, the buttons, button beads. You can add the buttons in later, like you can hand sew them on. I just think that this way is a bit more secure and like fewer ends to weave in ultimately. I'm going to do single crochets up until my next stitch marker. Okay, so I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And I'm going to bring up a button, making sure that its back is facing me. And I'm going to go into that first stitch, making sure my tension is fairly tight, and complete that single crochet. So that is how you put those buttons on there. Look how cute and sturdy those are. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish that up. Guys, it worked. I want to cry. It looks so good. I really didn't expect that it would work, but it worked. I'm so happy. Okay, so I have a little bit of a dilemma here, and it's really not a big deal. I'm probably making this a much bigger deal than it really needs to be. I think the easiest way is if you just went ahead and made a scallop edge, just, you know, continuing off of this side and whatnot. Honestly, I feel like a lot of my issues could have probably been avoided had I just started the red trim on this side instead. Things to note, but I mean, if you're doing it like me, you just have a couple more ends to weave in at the end. It's really not that big of a deal. But basically my little dilemma here is that if I do my scalloped edge going this way, it's going to be backwards, like my stitches. Which, if you look at the scallops, like this is the back of it, and then this is the front. So it's not a huge difference, but I know it would just bother me. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to go through and join my stitches on this side and sort of show you how I do the buttonholes first, and then I think from there I can then crochet the scalloped edges. So I'm gonna detach the yarn here, give myself a bit of an end to weave in as I go later. But I mean, I'm still on the high that is discovering how to make these buttons actually work. So it's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and insert my hook into the first place where my buttonhole will be, or one of my buttonholes. So pull up your loop, and then you're gonna chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're gonna go back, or you're gonna go into the next stitch and finish off a single crochet. So that way you have made yourself a little buttonhole. Excuse my little end here. And then just make sure that your little buttonholes are good to go around your button, and you sort of like how that looks. But I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm gonna keep going. In the next stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and then I'm going to take my marker off. I'm going to go ahead and finish a single crochet in there, and then I'm going to make a chain of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to go into the next stitch and do a single crochet. This is how all the buttonholes are looking, or like the buttonhole side. And now I'm gonna go through and do my scalloped edge. Here she is in her full glory. I love her so much. I definitely recommend that you wash and block. I recommend that you wash and block all your garments, but especially this one because it is the granny squares, so it does definitely help for it to lay flatter and better upon washing and blocking it. I don't think that this was a particularly difficult top to make. It just honestly had a lot of moving parts. So that was probably the hardest part of it. But if you have the patience, if you have the time, if you have the motivation, I really recommend that you recreate this top and send me pictures. I absolutely love seeing your TikTok TikToks, your Instagram photos. Keep tagging me in them. I absolutely love seeing all of them. You guys look so amazing. I am blown away by my audience's talent. You guys are just so great. That is all from me today. I hope that this tutorial helped you, and if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments below, or just any suggestions for future tops you want me to make or kinds of tops that you want me to make. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you all are having a really great day. Make sure to subscribe for my channel for more content, and if you follow me on TikTok, you'll actually see a lot more sneak peeks faster than on my YouTube channel. But again, thank you so much for watching. You guys really motivate me and inspire me to continue crocheting and to continue learning and teaching you guys. Thank you so much for being such a supportive, loving community. I'll see you in my next video. Make sure to subscribe for more content on my YouTube channel, and then if you have TikTok / you're a little addicted to TikTok like I am, then go ahead and follow me on TikTok to see sneak peeks, just because I do upload them faster there. Okay, bye!